Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the game that often gets forgotten about, recently had an update out of nowhere that finally adds 60 FPS on console. Despite solid reviews at launch, let's find out if it still holds up and whether it's worth revisiting or not. So before being able to freely explore the open world of London using gadgets and features that I forgot existed in this game that did make it stand out when compared to other Assassin's Creed games, I first play as Jacob and I'm given some targets to assassinate, which is a great way of finding out whether the combat and stealth still holds up or not. The game tries to make me emotionally hate the first target by showing his contributions to child slave labour. Get up, you little scrote. I'm then greeted with the game's combat mechanics for the first time. It's hard to judge it right now. More on this later when we have more things unlocked. I then murder a man in front of a load of kids. But here is where we get thrown into the real first stealth sequence. And for whatever reason, I'm utter dog shit and get spotted really damn easily. It doesn't stop me from twatting knives through some heads though. This is still satisfying as ever. We end up killing the child labour matey boy to show our soft side.
It is done.
Forgetting the fact that we've just mentally scarred some kids by slitting throats in front of them. And here we witness the first unique aspect of Assassin's Creed Syndicate that sets it apart from the ones before it. We switch to the female assassin named Evie, who has her own strengths and weaknesses. I'm also interested to revisit how switching works in the open world later on. I quickly find out that one of Evie's strengths is getting blokes into the raw dogging position at will. We get off the train, and this bald freak starts chatting about what his bin does to him every Friday night.
You ride me like a racehorse.
He also discusses how he's received an offer to fight Jake Paul in a boxing match, so we got to murk him before he becomes another victim of this old man beater. Another stealth sequence commences, and does anyone else think this animation seems to go on for ages? I reckon I could finish the Lord of the Rings series before this ends, for Christ's sake. Nonetheless, the stealth in this game is kind of enjoyable, so far at least. We then find this matey boy tied up with a top hat on, and I decide not to save him because he looks like a complete and utter knobhead. A few batterings later, we earn some skill points to unlock more combat moves. As I perform the double assassination, I couldn't help but notice that
it looks very, similar.
Yes, it's clear that Syndicate does reuse a lot of Unity's combat animations, which isn't exactly ideal, but we'll judge the combat properly once we have more weapons unlocked. So we finally meet the old boy, who gets a royal twatting and falls down asking to be raw dogged. Evie and Jacob discuss taking over London, and we then get taken out of the universe and brought forward to the current time, which I immediately skip as it's got to flip awful. As we enter London, its true nature doesn't take long to reveal itself, and the kid I saved from slave labour earlier decides to rob me as he's now jobless. He gets away for now whilst we get into another scrap. I still haven't decided whether I like this combat or not. I don't know, the animations are kinda sluggish. Maybe it's just me. They still look kinda good though, I guess. After viewing how much of a shithole London is, that's full of crackheads, chavs and the rest of it, which gets full marks for being accurate in real life by the way, we then take turns to do the classic can it off a building into a load of hay jobby, but no one checked if there was enough hay in the damn stack. Also, the amount of you watching who are subscribed is god to crud awful. If you could spare 1.2 seconds to subscribe, it would mean a hell of a lot, but back to it. After a long time recovering from a broken neck and learning how to walk again, we can finally free roam this incredible map of London, which does seem pretty damn big for an AC game, don't you think? Although, it's strange that this came out 1 year after Unity, and it somehow looks nowhere near as good. The graphics definitely look worse, and kinda look like a downgrade compared to Unity. But to be fair, it's not a bad looking game by any means. I then wonder if switching characters in the open world works similar to GTA 5. Okay then, it's kinda piss basic, but at least it can be done. And each character does have different skill trees, which is a nice touch. I then discover a poor horse bastardized on the pavement. This was my Uncle Ben moment, and I managed to track down the bellends who did it. So I rammed them with my wagon whilst whacking a few innocent pedestrians in the process. I completely forgot you can actually ride wagons in this game, and due to how big the map feels, I'm really glad, as running about would have gotten boring real quick. It's then clear to us that we have to wipe out these utter gobshites who bum the colour red and take over London, one district at a time, as any form of animal cruelty deserves instant death. After taking out countless pissants in red, our first big battle commences, right after this bloke finishes his spastic episode, and I have to say, I think I last longer in bed. As time rolls by, I begin taking over more and more of London, although I will admit a few innocent pedestrians did get murked in the process. I then finally get gifted a unique weapon to hopefully enhance the combat. Let's see whether it makes a difference or not. Oh Christ. Have to say, it doesn't really add much. For some reason, the combat in this game just feels kinda clunky and cartoony when compared to Unity that released a year before it. It doesn't mean it's bad. Some animations are actually quite cool. It just doesn't feel as good as I remember. But during one of these fights, we discover this little baby, aka Batman's grappling hook. This was one of the most unique aspects of Syndicate that I can't wait to revisit. The only problem is, the thing's knackered. Luckily, this dumpy troll knows who can fix it. So we get it fixed and head over to Big Ben to try this baby out and to see whether this was an aspect to AC parkour that should have been kept. Funnily enough, it works incredibly similar to the grappling hook mechanic in the Arkham games, and you can even zip line from one building to another. I find that it's incredibly useful for scaling large buildings, as you no longer need to piss about climbing them. I will say, it's not the most fluent game mechanic, and you often fight with it, as most of the time it's not targeting where you actually want to go. Should it be brought back? I personally quite like it and think it just needs to be a bit more fluent. To be fair, I completely forgot it existed until now and would love to know what you think. So, is Assassin's Creed Syndicate worth revisiting again? To me, this was a weird ass experience. In a lot of ways, it feels like a step backwards when compared to AC Unity, despite releasing after it. But features such as the grappling hook, switchable characters, and wacky combat animations do generate a lot of fun. Considering it's selling for less than a damn Freddo in some places, I think it's definitely worth checking out, especially if you never got to play it back in the day, or even if you want to revisit it, as it now finally supports 60 FPS with the recent update out of nowhere, which is a nice added bonus. As always, comment down below your honest thoughts on Syndicate. I would love to know what you think, and to find out whether Star Wars Outlaws is finally worth playing after a recent huge update, make sure to click the card on screen. You don't want to miss this video. Thank you guys for watching as always, and I'll see you next time.